So welcome to today's video. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. Today in this video, this is for those of you who are in Colorado and are looking to file for bankruptcy. Now, what I'm going to put here in the description of this video is you'll have access to a link. That link will take you straight to my blog. We'll have for you all the contact information for the trustees in the state of Colorado. You just have to pick your particular district. And there's also going to be a separate link that takes you to the information for the court system as well, whether it's trying to reach out to staff and everything else. And of course, there's going to be a third link which talks about the exemptions in Colorado. Remember, exemptions are key. Exemptions are what protect your assets when you file for bankruptcy. And Colorado has some pretty good exemptions because they actually protect property. There's certain states that you're like, how is this even a protection? Where the equity in a home is like $30,000. And so you see Georgia's one state, I think Georgia's 21,500. That's not real much of a protection. It's an exemption because they call it one, but 21,500, a lot of people have a lot more equity than that. And so that pushes you into chapter 13. But Colorado's different. Colorado's got some pretty good exemptions. And so let's go over that now. What you see here is, first place, you see what the exemption amount is for the state. So $250,000. Now, I put research, because this information does get updated every 3 years. And typically a lawyer blog or even some of the better known websites, I'm talking websites where they have articles. I'm not going to name out any websites, but I learned this going way back when I started doing research for my textbook, that a lot of the information was outdated. So if you do research, I don't care how you do it with AI and everything else, because I found AI wrong endless amount of times too. All AI is doing the search for you. You know, if you have to type up what are the exemptions in Colorado, you start reading a bunch of articles. AI does the same thing. It just does it for you. And then it says this number, but it could be getting that information from a site that's outdated. So that's why you have to do your research. And so once you find the number, write it down, go to the state websites. Sometimes the state websites are late too. Just, I'm letting you know. But go through multiple sources to confirm and then say, okay. And then when you see a contradiction, you have to keep looking. But if you don't, then that's the number, because the forms, if you're going to handwrite it out, the forms don't have the exemption amounts for you. So keep that in mind. Now, what I did here was just simply, what is the average home price in Colorado, right? And then what is the average mortgage, right? That's how you're going to find out what your equity is. So you see there 607,100 and subtract it from the mortgage amount. What do you have? You have $141,260 in equity. What does that mean? Well, look at these two numbers here. You have $250,000 that's protected in equity. You're below that amount. So if that's the amount of equity you had in your property is automatically exempt. It's automatically protected. So the way that it works with exemptions is, let's suppose your number's above the 250. Let's say you're at 300, make it a nice even number. You're $50,000 over. What does that mean? It means that's the number not protected. So that's the number that would at least get paid back to the trustee. I say at least because there could be other property exemption issues. So you'll probably have to do Chapter 13. And then with Chapter 13, you spread out those $50,000 in equity, you spread it out over 3 to 5 years. Bankruptcy isn't always the answer, because you see $50,000, maybe it's worth it. Maybe you're paying more or less that amount, or you're wiping out that amount in credit card debt. But what if you have a lot more? What if you have 150,000 in equity, 200,000 in equity? Sometimes it's just easier to refinance, get a home equity line of credit, pay it off, and then just control spending down the road. So keep that in mind. Bankruptcy is not always the answer, and Chapter 13 is a lot more expensive than Chapter 7, and there's a lot of cost there for lawyers, filing motions, and everything else that could increase what you're paying. So keep that in mind, because if you do meet with a Chapter 13 lawyer, do the math. The lawyer's going to be telling you, this is great, do it. You're going to wipe out all this information, but cut out the noise and figure out, how much am I paying in total, and then add it up versus what you owe, and figure out if if that number is too close and you have a lot of equity, maybe you have a better solution. All right. Now, I do want to focus on this, because this is an issue, and there'll be a link that you can read about that as well. Understand that normally in the law, you just can't pick and choose what state you want to apply the laws of whatever state to your situation. Bankruptcy is a little different, because bankruptcies that you see there, has 730 days and 180-day rule. What does that mean? It means if you're living in Colorado and you need those Colorado exemptions because that's to your favor, you have to be living there at least 730 days. Now, I'm in Florida. What if I leave Florida and then a year later I'm like, oh, I need to file for bankruptcy? I have to apply Florida law because I haven't been there the 730 days. So keep that in mind, that if you're relocating, and more than ever now that we live in this mobile society, if you're relocating but you are thinking of filing bankruptcy, where are you moving to and when should you file? Every state has different exemptions. So for example, if you're moving to Florida, Florida has unlimited homestead exemption. Sounds great. That's more than $250,000. Maybe you live in Georgia where it's only 21,500. Then you're going to say, let me go to Florida, buy a home and file for bankruptcy. Absolutely. After 2 years, after you meet the 730-day residency requirement. Throughout that whole time, you're actually going to be living in Florida, working in Florida, and yet using Georgia bankruptcy exemptions. So look at it when if you're relocating to Colorado or you're leaving Colorado, you have to decide, am I going to hurry up or am I going to slow down your bankruptcy filing? Because you have to meet that test. Okay. Now, there are other exemptions here I want to talk about. Colorado, for the most part, doubles the exemption limits, and they're pretty good. Like I said, Florida just up theirs to $5,000, but you see here the cars are $15,000 exemption. That is a lot. Cars typically depreciate in value immediately, and then by the time you pay it off, it's probably not worth 15,000 anyway. So it kind of looks like you're basically going to be protected anyway. And likewise, if you're disabled over the age of 60, which is great, I think every state should do that. Florida doesn't. They increase the amount that's protected up to $25,000. So do keep that in mind. Now, here's one that I really was very high. Tools of the trade. What is that? Well, what are my tools of the trade? I got a microphone here, camera there, got a computer here. Those are the tools of my trade, right? This is my job, right? Whether it's this or teaching, I need my computer to teach and everything else. So if I filed for bankruptcy and this is my primary source of income, then I'm protected up to $60,000. That is a lot. May not be a lot for other businesses, maybe like a dentist that have all these dental chairs and equipments and everything else, but it's still a lot. And I think of landscapers who spend tens of thousands of dollars. They got to get the truck, the trailer, the sit down mower, all the blowers, all that costs a lot of money. And yet they're protected up to $60,000. Now, if it's not their primary source of income, they're still protected $20,000, which is a huge sum. Colorado has very impressive exemptions. I wish most states would follow this because it really protects the debtor. Okay. Now, we also have household goods, $6,000. Think about all the stuff in your house, furniture, stuff like that. Again, it's probably going to be protected. Why? Because furniture isn't worth $6,000. It was $6,000 when you bought it, and it ain't worth $6,000 today. So likewise, you're probably going to be protected with your household goods. This is why I like to say, people hear the term Chapter 7, they hear liquidation, and they think all their assets are getting liquidated. No, but again, some states don't really offer much of a protection, so you might face these liquidation issues. But other states like Florida and Texas and Colorado, California, that offer good exemptions, that wouldn't apply. You would be literally protected and exempt. And here's another one that's a big issue for me: cemetery plots, etc. There's no limit listed in the statute. Now, you might be thinking, what do I care? Because I've had a lot of elderly clients who have spent 10 years, 15 years paying off that cemetery lot, and then they file for bankruptcy, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, but that's not protected. The trustee is going to take it. Now, do I think it's a little morbid that a trustee there's already somebody there? Let's say the husband already passed away and the wife is the one filing for bankruptcy. They're going to remove that and replace it with another person. The whole thing is kind of weird and kind of freaky, but they sell it and someone's going to buy it. You're dead, right? What do you care where you're at? So um, Florida treats that like another piece of land, which means basically it's not exempt. Some states I've seen in preparing the blog, and all these states individually, I've seen where they have some limits, maybe like $10,000, so you can't put $100,000 mausoleum. But I do like the idea. Again, I'm thinking of the elderly. I don't have a cemetery. I don't plan to be buried, but those that have gone through that and they've already paid for it, I just don't see it fair that they're going to lose that all of a sudden. And so I'm glad to see Colorado protects that 100% as well. Okay. Now, as always, any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to me. The paralegal students who are watching this to learn more about bankruptcy and all that, I do have the paralegal video series. I've gone through, I think, 20 chapters already. I got 5 or 6 more to go. That's based on the review of my textbook. But likewise, you guys could enjoy the videos and learn a little bit more about bankruptcy as well. So if you have any questions or comments, students are also more than welcome to jump on in. All right. So take care, everyone. Have a good rest of your week, and I'll catch you guys at the next video.